back to the fourth show of the year. This is Talkin Bama with Big C. I'm your host, Colin Big C McGuire. This weekend, Alabama played Southern Mississippi up in Tuscaloosa at 5 p.m. The game was on ESPN. It was a sunny day, but it was a casual day, or the fans were not into the game, so Alabama had a slow start. Then in the second half, it started pouring it on, scoring 14 points in the third quarter and 17 points in the fourth quarter to go up 52-12. And Southern Mississippi, the only way they were able to score on Alabama was they drove into the red zone, but they were forced to kick 4 field goals. So that's what happened Saturday, and Coach David was sort of upset with the team because they took a casual attitude going into the game. And needless to say, when they play Florida this week, they cannot take a casual attitude against the Gators. Alabama's record against Florida is 22-14. One game is vacated because of the 2005 game was vacated because of the Texas scandal in 2007. That was the game that Alabama won 31-3 when Tyrone Prothro scored on the opening play of the game. Then later on he broke his leg, which was a horrific injury that was seen on television. And also this was the game that Alabama was proclaimed Bama is back on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Last meeting they had was in 2011 down in the Swamp against current coach Will Muschamp, and the teacher, Nick Saban, beat the pupil 38-10. So Saban's record is 1-0 against the Florida Gators entering this game. Today's trivia question is, how many touchdowns did Johnny Musso score against Florida in 1971? I recently interviewed Coach Joe Kynes, and Coach Kynes has a connection with both Alabama and Florida. From 1979 to 1984, he was the defensive coordinator at Florida. And then 1985 and 86, he was the defensive coordinator at Alabama. Then later on, he came back as the defensive coordinator in 2003 to 2006. But the main emphasis is going to be on his time at Florida and Alabama, and he was on the Alabama sideline in 1986 when Alabama played Florida. And we'll be back after these messages. We got Coach Joe Kynes, whose coaching career, at least from a college standpoint, started at Jacksonville State with Charlie Pell, and then you went to Clemson with him and then followed him down to Florida. What we're going to talk about is your coaching career at Florida and Alabama, mainly. When y'all went down there to Florida in 1979, the spring, what was the condition of the Florida football program when y'all took over?
You know, anytime there's a change, you don't change if things are really well. So the program was at a little low point. It had some really great teams, some good players, but it hit a low spot there. And the quarterback situation probably was the most critical. The first season there, we went through a couple of guys, and I think the thing that complicated that first year more than anything else was a rash of injuries. It got to the point late in the year that the starting lineup was determined by who could play that week. And all the years I've coached, I don't believe we ever had a situation where injuries played a bigger part. We actually ended up the last couple of games playing with a youngster at quarterback who had been our scout team quarterback.
Okay, we're going to talk about that bad year. I was a manager. We played y'all in 1979 down in Gainesville, which I know you'll remember that game well.
Remember it well.
It was a night, going into that game, I'm looking at the scores. Y'all played Houston and ended up going to the Cotton Bowl that year. Y'all barely lost to them by 4. You tied Georgia Tech. Then you had 2 other games you lost. And I'm going to be honest with you, the coaches that week were they were worried about y'all because Charlie Pell was coaching down there.
Right.
The next year, y'all went down there in Florida. Y'all ended up turning it around. Y'all went 8-4, but you lost to 3 really good. Well, you lost to 4 good teams. Right. But like the one game, and I'm going to bring this nightmare back up to you. were you in the press box today on that play when Lindsey Scott scored on that long play?
Right. Yeah.
That was unbelievable. I mean,
I tell you, that's one play you don't ever forget. I almost tell you where all 22 players were on that play. We had a really good safety. Youngster who went ahead and played several years in the NFL. He gets a break on the ball and actually runs into one of our guys and falls down. And, but it doesn't make real good sense to go back and talk about one play in a course of a game that happened that long ago.
Right, I know.
That thing changed history, though.
Yeah.
We win that game. Georgia probably doesn't win the national championship.
Oh, no, they wouldn't have won it that year.
And we had really played well against a running game against one of the best backs, going. So it was just, one of those things that happened that you look back on it and I tell you, for years, I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat thinking about that play.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It was a game breaker, season breaker, turnaround deal for them, that's for sure.
And then, then the next year you got promoted as defensive coordinator. And then the last year you was there was in '84 when y'all started off 1-1-1, and then Coach Pell got let go. And then somehow or another, Coach Hall and all y'all banded together. And, I mean, at the end of the year, y'all had one of the best teams in the country, I thought. After that '84 season, you came on board at Alabama, and one thing I want to credit you with, the defense did a lot, improved a lot. The year before, Alabama was 5-6, and then went 9-2-1, and could have, should have, but came close, had two close games and lost. But what was the situation like from your recollection when you came in the spring of '85 up there at Alabama with the defense?
Well, first of all, Coach Perkins, I'll always be eternally grateful to Coach Perkins. He had the courage to say, come on, Joe, and work with us here. A great staff. Mike Dubose. People can like him, not like him. This, that, and the other. But as far as the defensive line went in those days, Mike was probably as good as anybody that's
he was,
coached that position.
Yeah, he was a good line coach.
Really learned from one of the best, and Coach Donahue. And just kind of carried that over. I always thought he did a great job teaching and motivating his kids. Sylvester Croom. We could talk for hours about Sly. And, the thing that you get to, a lot of times people get opinions. They like this guy, they don't like this guy. All that done. Sylvester was probably one of the finest human beings.
He's a good man.
His father, his mother. It'd be hard pressed to find a family that probably contributed more back in those days to the general welfare of the player.
All right, in 1986, while you were at Alabama played Florida, and you were there 2 years earlier. Did that help? Did that give us an advantage with you knowing the personnel being there only 2 years earlier?
Oh, I think the advantage we had was Cornelius and Larry Roberts and those guys.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
I don't think I was any kind of advantage at all. We had a really fine football team that year.
The 2005 Florida game, needless to say, that was a great performance your defense had that day against Urban Meyer's offense that day.
Yeah, that sometimes it all comes together, and that day we played extremely well. That group was a special group. They, anytime you look back, D'Amico Ryan probably a strong inside backer, and as it played here. Roman Harper.
A
lot of people realize that Roman, he was kind of the signal caller back there, and I've said it a couple of times. Roman could put us in the wrong defense, and it worked because they all believed it.
Oh, golly, that's great. using the Coach Gene Stallings method of predicting the outcome of the football game this coming Saturday, Alabama is number 18 in rushing, while Florida's number 12 in rushing defense. Alabama's number 1 in rushing defense, and Florida's number 25 in rushing offense. And turnover margin, now this is where it's really a wide gap. Alabama's number 98, and Florida's number 1 in turnover margin. But I'm still predicting Alabama to win 31-17. Doing some research over the weekend, Florida's still worried about their secondary. Also, the offensive line was having problems against Kentucky. I got to believe that Alabama will do a lot of blitzing this weekend. And Florida's more of a passing team than a running team, even though they can run the ball well. They're averaging 395 yards a game throwing the ball. And the thing is that Alabama hasn't done lately is done pressuring the quarterback. So I believe they can get to that quarterback, and I think what's going to happen, the running game's going to start going for Alabama and still ain't going to give up some points. But I believe Alabama will win 31-17. Earlier in the show, I asked you a trivia question, and the trivia question is, how many touchdowns did Johnny Musso score against Florida in 1971? The answer is 4. At the time, he tied a record by Bobby Marlowe, who scored 4 touchdowns against Georgia Tech in 1950. I want to thank Coach Joe Kynes for being our guest today, and I also thank the good people that helped produce this show. And I also want to thank you for watching this show, and I also want to let you know that I have a show called Talking Sports with Big C, Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time at www.JockJive.com. But also let your friends know about this show, Talking Bama with Big C. We're on Facebook. Like us on Facebook and get as many people as you can to join us on Facebook. Until next week, I'm Colin Big C McGuire. Roll Tide, roll!